yes, 1353, like here again, the 6 Acts. In 1353, a century on from Magna Carta, village serfdom were dying. And in that crucial enactment, they said, the phrase in Magna Carta, no free man, shall henceforth be interpreted as no man. So that's crucial. 1353, Magna Carta is held to apply to everyone. Women, you ask. There are many clauses in Magna Carta dealing with the grievances of women. So again, it's remarkably advanced in that respect. It safeguarded the rights of widows in particular. And the meaning of that funny clause that against disparagement. Disparagement meant being given away as were forced marriage to somebody of inferior status to yourself. That was banned. So Magna Carta gave a lot of safeguards to women in landowning society and specifically to widows.
Do some research myself over the years. I have come across this particular point about freehold, which is quite fascinating because somebody informed me last year that Hitler abolished freehold in Germany. The French Revolution abolished freehold, but the barons and the aristocracy in England never abolished freehold, and as the Duke of Westminster still owns most of Chelsea and Westminster. And this idea of leasehold and freehold is a fascinating, well, I'm not an expert on the matter, but it seems to me that you're making references to democracy and ownership that was established at Runnymede in the 12th century, but in fact the very idea of ownership of land and freehold is still carried out by the aristocracy today. But in lots of parts of Europe, like Charles owns the Duchy of Cornwall, Lord Batt has 200,000 acres, and this business about you may have a house in London, but you don't own the freehold because some aristocrat owns it. He's collecting, I think, £130 a year, but it all adds up, and he's collecting millions. Where in Germany, there's no freehold, and the French Revolution, because of the removal of the aristocracy, they don't have any. There's no freehold collection, if you like. So, I mean, how does one, equalize that with the idea of democracy, the democratic document, if you like, that doesn't really exist today?
I think actually use the word democracy. You're quite right. You have to be careful about terminology here, which is why I always say what Magna Carta gave us was the principle of freedom under the law. Not freedom, full stop.
Not under
freedom
ownership.
Under the law. Freedom under the law. That's what we're marking next year, not democracy. Magna Carta did not give us democracy. Now, leasehold, freehold, which is what you were really asking about. And of course, you put your finger on it. The problem here is the continuity of English history. In every other country, in the last 2 centuries, they've had a revolution, and it's the world turned upside down. We've never had that. The nearest you get to it is the Cromwellian interregnum of 1649 to 1660. And what 1660 was bring the monarchy back. So it's this classic seamlessness of English history. Now, 1660, the return of Charles II, did get rid of one thing. It got rid of feudalism. Feudalism was formally abolished by law as part of the Restoration Settlement of 1660. That actually mattered remarkably little. If you want a nice, convenient terminal date for when was feudalism abolished, it's 1660. But it was already dead on its feet 3 centuries before that. What it survived as was a structure of landholding, a legal framework for landholding. And that's what it is, I suppose, today. But what was already on the way to acceptance in the 13th century And what Magna Carta did a lot to solidify was the rights of tenants against the Lord. That's one respect in which you can say Magna Carta put an end to arbitrary monarchy, because repeatedly it gives safeguards to the tenant against the landlord within a feudal structure, which, because of the continuity of English history, I agree with you, the outward shell of it is still there today. Equally, of course, going back to the question I was asked a moment ago about the villains and serfs, you see, they lost that distinction in England in 1353. They said, no man, the distinction between free and unfree, was disappearing in England by the 14th century. Serfdom, villanage, whatever you wish to call it, the two words mean the same thing, survived in the Austrian Empire until 1848. It was abolished at the end of the 1848 revolutions, and I imagine you all know it survived in Russia until the emancipation by Tsar Alexander II in 1861. Isn't that extraordinary? The Russian aristocracy are still gambling over serfs in the casinos of St. Petersburg in the 19th century. It had gone in England 600 years before, which is why in so many ways England, by European standards, even by the 13th century, was a remarkably advanced society, a remarkably sophisticated society, a remarkably commercialised society, which is precisely why monarchy needed to be restrained and the rule of law established, which is what Magna Carta did.
I think, Professor, it's interesting to note that the main mode of land tenure was that of knight service.
That's correct, yes.
Where the barons held land under the king in return for forming a standing army in time of war.
That's right. And that's what all the opening clauses are all about. That's what all the opening clauses are all about. The conditions of knight service. That's absolutely crucial to their interests. And their grievance was that John was exacting more service from those knights' fees than he was entitled to. They wanted to stop that. Clauses 1 to 15 are mostly about exactly that. Yes, I quite agree.
Professor Saul, thank you for giving us such an interesting insight into Magna Carta. My own recollection of it goes back to school days, which was extremely boring, and you brought it to light in a completely different way. On behalf of the London region, the English-speaking region, thank you very much.
Thank you.